Now, Marcel, you said something on Monday night that I think surprised a lot of people in the audience when you were at Glenn Carrett's event. And that was that municipal governments, though they keep raising our taxes, they're not actually as broke as they let on. And you pointed out that this has a lot to do with how they calculate their budgets and do their accounting.
Yeah, the budget is done on a cash basis. The financial statement is done on an accrual basis, meaning it's on a historical accumulated basis. When you do the budgets, they just tell you, this is the amount we are going to spend to provide your services, including our big pensions. So then we are going to look at this amount and we are going to say, we need to raise that amount through taxation, either property taxes from residential or non-residential taxes to pay for what we have. Included in this is always the fact that they tell you that we don't have the right to have a deficit in municipal government. There's the first boondoggle. I don't like it, but it exists. You can have a deficit at the municipal level, but you have to repay it within the next 3 years. So I don't like it, but it is there. So an excuse for the municipalities to do this is very simple. We can't have a deficit, so we're going to raise the money. And what happens is we have and create surpluses. Surpluses are a good thing as long as you use it properly. I don't mind reserves. We have reserves in Calgary right now, which is about $500 million. And suddenly with an election, we can see all sorts of expenditures coming out of those reserves. And this is what I call political legacies or buying votes in an election year. All these years that they've told you, we don't have any money, they've been accumulating surpluses. And they've been purchasing or accumulating assets over the years. We've been telling people about this for 20 years. Finally, the CD Howe Institute produced their own report and came up with the figure of surpluses in Canadian municipalities of $11 billion. And since municipalities don't create any wealth, and all the money comes from taxpayers that has been created through overtaxation, this $11 billion of surplus is your money being used by politicians to create political legacies. So it is important for people to look at new ways of doing budgets. And this is why at the Institute, we are pushing forward the idea of zero-based budgeting for municipalities, meaning you start every year when you do your budget with the idea that you're starting afresh. Everything is new. You look at it. With technology today, so many things can be done differently. If the private sector is putting rockets in the air now instead of NASA, I bet you we can collect our garbage by a private company. So by doing zero base, you're going to look at the best way of doing and providing services for the taxpayer. So when you start afresh, you say to yourself, where do we go from here? So now that we've reviewed how we can deliver services better, we will need a new level of taxation. Hopefully, it will show that technology has brought down the amount of taxes required to provide the same services or better services. Then, if you have a surplus at the end of the year, we propose one thing. What you do is you look at the surplus and you say, maybe we should have no more than 5% of our operating costs as reserves. The remainder of what you have left as a surplus should be returned immediately in the following taxation year. Then you will start having accountability, but we need transparency first for us to have accountability. And that's one way of doing it, by having zero-based budgeting.
You know, it's funny, Marcel, that you brought up garbage collection and private garbage collection, because in the county that I live in, I can get garbage pickup to my rural, very rural house, thanks to the county. However, I've opted out of that and I use a private garbage collection service because it is cheaper, more efficient. And I think that has a lot to do with those public sector union pensions and benefits, that I don't have to pay the guy tossing a garbage bag in the back of a truck, you know, a overinflated salary coupled with overinflated benefits. And so just even for me as my family, I can see that as a practical thing that we're already saving money on. So multiply that across the entire county that I live in.
Absolutely. Let's talk about garbage, because that's what we have a lot at the municipal level.
Yeah.
Garbage politically and garbage that we distribute, right? So let's put it this way. When they first put this on the agenda at council, we made a presentation and we warned people that putting the garbage under the jurisdiction of the municipality was the wrong thing to do, because the first thing was they put 3 businesses out of operation.
Right.
They killed 3 businesses. Now, the absurdity of it all, having been warned that this was not going to work and there are better ways of doing it, the city of Calgary decided we're going to have a pilot project to see if we can get it from the management. And this is the garbage we have nowadays. You know, we get to do a pilot project after the fact.
Right.
I mean, you know, this is so absurd. We spend millions of dollars. So now if we go back to the private sector, what are we going to do? Sell all these assets that were bought for to deliver the service at a lower price. Once again, the taxpayer loses because to sell it would be at a loss.
Yeah.
And the fact is, they do not want to hurt any negotiations between the taxpayer and the union, because that's what it is. I mean, anything happening at the municipal level is a negotiation by our representatives, the councillors, with the unions. So they do not want to take that step and say there is a better way, or there are better technology to deliver the services. Unions, in effect, have outlived their existence. Technology is going to make them obsolete if they do not agree to make changes on how they are compensated. And that is a major. This is why we have 50% of our operating costs in wages and benefits.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears that the unions have outlived their usefulness. Marcel, you told me a little something before we jumped on camera here, and that's that you've started a political action committee. Can you tell us about that?
Correct. We've started a political action committee to advise and listen to people, select candidates, and provide a platform for the next municipal election in Calgary. Our PAC is called Lead Calgary, and we are already interviewing candidates. At the end of August, but now perhaps a little bit later because of the upcoming federal election, we are going to issue a list of candidates with a series of ideas and ask them to be part of a new way of doing business at City Hall. So leadcalgary.ca, and we are on Facebook at Lead Calgary. So that's what we are going to do.
Well, you know, it seems like, at least in media, sometimes I'm a bit of a lone wolf in driving home the point that conservatives should not really walk off the field of municipal politics. This is where all those bad ideas are so often born, and then they grow up towards the federal level because they start off with all those pilot projects you point out that happen after you start the project itself. And, you know, municipal politics, they're the things that it's the thing that affects you first and the most. And that enormous property tax bill is one of the largest tax bills, single tax bills you'll pay all year. And so it's important for us to be holding our politicians to account. Now, Marcel, one last thing. How do people support the work that you do at the Institute for Public Sector Accountability, and how do they find out about some of the things that you're doing?
We have our website. We have all our reports published on it. It's called theipsa.org. THEIPSA.org.
Well, Marcel, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know I just sort of sprung this interview on you, but you know what? You're a sharp guy and you know your stuff, obviously. We'll have you back on again really soon because I'd be very interested to see the sort of people that you identify through your PAC initiative.
Actually, I will be delighted to have a platform like the Rebel to do this, actually, because we are going to seek social media support of all sorts to be able to reach people out there. One of the things I want to add, we have an idea that because the federal election has been called virtually at the same time as the municipal campaign, I wrote a book called Conservatives, Dead or Alive. And it is important for us to do this. To me, 2021 is a very big year for politics in Canada in general. At the municipal level, I ask conservative candidates to help conservative candidates at the municipal level. Campaign together, support each other, because if you have the same goals of freedom of speech and free market economy, you should have a complete joint platforms to talk about the same thing at the doors. So I'm requesting, I'm asking candidates to work together, because otherwise we are going nowhere. This election 2021 year is extremely important.
If you'd like to get access to my show, as well as other great TV style shows too, like Ezra's Nightly, Ezra Levant Show, and David Menzies' Friday night show, Rebel Roundup, just go to rebelnews.com/subscribe. That's rebelnews.com/subscribe.